So folks, Blizzard sent out a survey, and this popped up on Reddit showcasing some of the stuff in the survey, in particular potential future features and content and monetization options for Hearthstone, gauging people's interest in a variety of different topics. So we've got stuff about subscriptions and game modes and content, which means like, you know, cards and designs and such, new technology for the game and social features for the game, so and cosmetics for the game. So I broke down all these different options in the survey that essentially discuss different kinds of things that could potentially come to Hearthstone in the future. Now, of course, none of these are things that necessarily are going to happen. They're just ideas. They're just getting feedback, you know, checking on what people think about these various potential ideas. So don't count on any of these happening. Don't expect these to happen. They're just possibilities. But I still wanted to talk through them and kind of discuss the sorts of things we might see in Hearthstone in the future. And much like Blizzard is garnering feedback from the people who are taking the survey, I wanted to do the same with you guys. Like, which of these are the most interesting to you? Which of these ideas do you like? Do you hate? So on and so forth. I thought it'd be fun to discuss what the future of Hearthstone might look like and what some of you are looking for from the future of Hearthstone yourself. So first and foremost, this is the one I think that caught the most attention, is they threw out the idea of subscriptions in Hearthstone. And you're going to see 4 different options here behind me. I'll read each of these in a minute. But in summary, the idea was offering ways to access Hearthstone cards via a subscription with different sort of levels of access here. There's, you know, you wouldn't assume all of these exist together necessarily. They're just different options, different possibilities. But more or less, like, you pay $20, you get access to all of Hearthstone cards. And you can just play Hearthstone for $20 a month. You don't own the cards, but you're just renting them for as long as you're paying the subscription. You get to play with whatever Hearthstone cards are included in said subscription based on these various options. And there's been a lot of negative feedback for this, which kind of surprised me. I think actually this would be a pretty cool thing to have in Hearthstone. I think the reason there's been a lot of negative feedback is people are assuming this would be the only option and you'd have to pay $20. I don't think anyone should interpret it that way. I think this would be an additional option on top of the way it works right now. I think they would never get rid of packs unless they had to because of some sort of legislation, perhaps in other regions. I don't think that'll happen in the US anytime soon anyway. I don't think they ever want to get rid of packs. Packs are a great way to make money. You get people spending way more than they normally would. But this is, to me, a lower cost alternative for people who don't want to have to keep up with the game long term. Because right now, if you leave the game for a year or two and you want to come back, you've got a year or two to catch up with. And that is such an enormous proposition to get all of those cards all at once. If you want to play with a bunch of different stuff, like, yeah, you might be able to grab 1 or 2 decks kind of reliably with Dust. But if you want everything, you want a diverse experience, you want multiple game modes like duels, can be hard to catch up. Whereas with this, you just pay that $20. I got a month where I can play a lot of Hearthstone. You know, I've got 2 weeks of vacation this month. I'm going to play Hearthstone for a month. It's $20 instead of $200 or $500 to get back into the game. So for that portion of the audience, this feels like a much more accessible and affordable way to spend money and get some good time out of Hearthstone. So as long as they maintained the current free-to-play model and the current pack model for those who are better served by each of those sides of it, to me this just looks like all bonus. Like, this is just upside for people who can suddenly have a lower barrier to entry to get back into the game or to maintain the game, frankly, because even the most expensive one here at $20 a month, that's $240 a year. I spend like $200 in expansion right now to get everything, maybe a little less than that. I don't know, 150, 200. So I'm probably spending like $500-600 a year, whereas that would only be $240 a year. So assuming I wanted to keep this up forever, it might be cheaper for me to pay for a monthly subscription as opposed to anything else. Now, that said, we got to get into the nitty-gritty details here because these don't necessarily offer everything that you need. So let's read each of these in detail to figure out if these are actually doing what we want them to do. So first up, monthly subscription, all standard cards, 1 monthly price of $20 to access all standard Hearthstone cards, including the current expansion. So that actually is everything that you'd care about for standard. For $20, that actually seems like a good deal to me. That's way cheaper than you'd need right now for a standard format collection if you bought it outright. So again, for anybody coming back to the game, for somebody just trying to maintain and doesn't care about wild or duels necessarily, I actually think that's a pretty good deal comparative to what we have now. Honestly, still expensive to spend $240 a year on a game. I think we always need to remind ourselves that's still pretty expensive. But if you play a lot of Hearthstone, that's not unreasonable at all, right? I think that's actually pretty fair. And a lot of people would be well served by that subscription. I think that would actually save a lot of people a lot of money. Yeah, it would be better if it had wild with it. I agree with that, sure. What would the price be for every card? 20, 30 bucks? So the next option is a monthly subscription, all standard cards excluding the current expansion. So one monthly price of $10 to access all standard cards except the current expansion. To me, that seems not a good deal. Like, who's going to want that? Why wouldn't you want the newest, most exciting cards for your $10 a month? That makes no sense to me. I think the reason they're probably throwing that one out there is because they want the ability to preserve pack sales for new and exciting stuff, which serves Blizzard really nicely, but that would not serve the player base very much at all. Because you just have to buy every set anyway. And then what good is the $10, you know? I don't know what it's actually doing for you if you're just buying all the newest stuff anyway. That seems kind of silly to me. So the third option is monthly subscription, the top 3 decks for 3 classes. One monthly price of $10 to access the current top performing deck for 3 classes of your choice. So you pick your 3 classes, you get the 3 best decks. I don't know if that would update in real time or if it's like monthly. I don't know how that would work, but those specifics aside, I would kind of hate to see this in the game. I feel like it might lead to too much of everybody just playing the same decks, which we already have a problem of. But at least now, sometimes people vary their decks a little bit based on their collection. They have some homebrew mixed in. With this sort of option, everybody would always be playing the same exact 3 lists. So it would remove a lot of potential variability from your ladder experience. It might make things feel really samey. As far as value is concerned, I mean, some people don't care about playing more than a few good decks, so that might be good value for people. Just having 3 competitive ladder decks for $10 a month, that's $120 a year to have a really satisfying Hearthstone experience. I don't think that's crazy. So probably decent value, but I don't really like the model of that as far as the impact it might have on the actual ladder experience on average. Fourth option, monthly subscription, all standard cards for 1 class, one monthly price of $10 to access all standard cards in 1 class of your choice. So, I mean, that's obviously way less efficient than the $20 for everything. It is absolutely cheaper, but not relatively cheaper, right? It's $10 cheaper. It's an absolute value that's cheaper, but efficiency feels way worse because you get 11 classes for $20. You get 1 class for 10. That is not a great relative cost. That seems a little high to me. I know there are people who like are class specialists again, where that might be a better deal than they're currently getting, but that does not seem good. So for me, really, number 1 seems like a pretty good deal. The other 3 have all pretty notable downsides or don't seem like good deals. So I'd maybe be up for number 1. I think a lot of people would probably purchase number 1 and be rather happy. I would not be paying a subscription for a game. I'd go play another game. Well, you don't, again, I don't think you have to. This is not a mandatory thing. It wasn't framed as a mandatory thing. It's framed as an option. You would be able to continue enjoying the game the exact same way you do now. We're assuming, we don't really know, but my assumption is that your experience would not change at all, but this is another option for people to engage with monetization. Knowing that, does it feel like a good deal? I think it does for certain people, yes. Yeah, of course, if the implementation of this removes other options, that's going to be bad, right? I think that's a given. Like if you can't free to play anymore and it's only subscriptions, that's going to suck, obviously. But for people who are currently kind of bouncing in and out of the game or who've gone away for a while, who maybe aren't, even think about this, right? Like most people probably just play like 1 month of Hearthstone. Like the new cards come out and you play for a month. And there are probably people who pre-order an expansion every time to play for a single month. Assuming you're allowed to like start and stop your subscription here, you know, buying an $80 pre-order to play 1 month of an expansion versus just paying $20 for a single month 3 times a year is way better if you're somebody who kind of just shows up for new stuff and hype and then kind of drifts off, like I think a lot of players do. I think that's fair to say, like they missed the boat, like this may be coming in too little too late. I think that's a pretty reasonable take. Yeah. A lot of people have kind of given up on their return to Hearthstone already. Anyway, we should move on. This was not the only thing we were going to talk about. So great thoughts in chat. Really appreciate the insights, guys. Your personal experiences for how you would interact with that model is interesting. Everybody's gonna have a little bit of a different take. Let's talk about new modes. They also introduced a few potential modes. Again, for anybody joining us late, this is a survey Blizzard sent out asking about potential new features in the game. None of these are confirmed. You should not expect these to happen. They're just possibilities. They're just gathering feedback. So I wanted to talk through how you guys would feel about these sorts of things being offered. So some of the potential modes they teased were tournament mode, in-game tournaments where you compete against players around your rank for rewards and prizes. Of course, tournament mode has been touted over and over again, and people have wanted tournament mode forever. This actually is a little bit distinct from how I feel like a lot of people envision tournament mode. I think most of us assume tournament mode would be a function where you kind of set up your own tournaments and you have people sign up, and it's like you and your friends or me and my viewers, streamers, that sort of thing. This actually sounds almost more like a plug and play version, almost like Arena or something, where you're just randomly matched with 7 other people or something, and you kind of go through a tournament and you get rewards and prizes along the way, which sounds cool. I would actually like both, to be honest. I would like a way to set up my own custom tournaments in client and a way to have a longer, more engaged tournament, kind of like an arena mode or something would be pretty cool. So that'd be fine. That'd be great. New multiplayer modes teased. Play alongside and against friends in 2v2 co-op games or similar modes. This is something people always get really excited about. I'll be honest, this does not look that great to me. I'm not as into the multiplayer stuff as most of you. I don't have any friends anyway. I don't know who I would play with. You know, I'm sure I could find some streamers and stuff to play with, but this is not something that speaks to me personally, but I know a lot of people would like it, and that's cool. I'd be fine with that. I want you guys to be happy, right? So if they added some co-op and 2v2 stuff, I'd be curious to see what that looks like. I bet we could have some fun with it. Hey, Sir Quali, dude, thanks for the tier 1. I think I'm saying your name right, by the way. I think I remembered. That's really nice, dude. But this third one is really appealing to me, right? Create custom game modes or types. Choose from a curated list of keywords and mechanics to create a custom cards and unique gameplay experiences. Oh, please. Dude, sandbox modes like that create so much potential content. I don't know how much it would be. It seems like an enormous task for them to develop something like that. But that's the sort of thing that keeps games going forever, because you get user-generated content, that UGC, as I think some people call it, that can just drive a game by itself. It frees up a lot of sort of development cost and energy in the future, because it's like suddenly, oh man, our players are making great ways to keep engagement going, which is awesome. So, you know, allowing us to set up wacky events and tournaments and crazy games. Imagine how many videos you can make. Imagine how much fun you could have with your friends. Like, oh, hey, we're going to, you know, every card's going to cost 0. It's basically like Tavern Brawl rules, but you're setting them yourself. You're defining them yourself, and you're just creating all kinds of crazy experiences. You could even see some like homegrown sort of formats develop out of that sort of thing. Popper modes and who knows what else cool stuff people would come up with. But depending on how robust the tools were for that sort of sandbox mode, that could be absolutely amazing for the game. I think it would not only be good for creators like me, but players too. Could do some really cool stuff. Yeah, that's a good point, Funkless. Not everybody has in-game friends, myself included, that would like be willing to do that stuff with. But I'm imagining it sort of like old school. For me, it was like Age of Empires 2. A lot of people like Warcraft 3, right? Where you find you find a thing in the client, some kind of special game mode or whatever, and there's matchmaking for that rule set, for that game mode, for that mod, special version of Hearthstone, and kind of lock in that module or whatever, and then you could have people queue up inside of that module to play against each other. Some sort of custom games filtering and matchmaking and stuff built in would be really, really cool. Again, seems ridiculous. I don't really expect that to happen in Hearthstone because the amount of work and time and energy for that seems monumental compared to a lot of these other things which seem like low-hanging fruit. So to me, this is almost the least likely thing that we could have in Hearthstone on this entire list, but I think it would be the coolest. Could you imagine how insane that would be? Man, I don't know that they'd be willing to invest that much at this stage of Hearthstone. That feels like something they could have came in off the bat and been amazing. But I just know for me, like when I played games back in the day, that's what I played, right? When I played Age of Empires 2, I only played custom maps after a while. And then you just play custom maps all night forever, and it's so much fun doing crazy stuff. I would love that. That'd be perfect. So, moving on. This was another. By the way, I created these brackets of I named I separated these into their different groups. By the way, these were not done by Blizzard. I'm just trying to make it more easy to digest for you guys. So these were all just in one long list on the survey, but I kind of broke them out to help you better summarize it and stuff. So the next kind of angle they asked about was content stuff, and by this I mean like design and things inside of the current version of Hearthstone instead of kind of outside of it. So the first one is top strategies always evolving. What that means is ranked play never gets old due to guaranteed bi-weekly balance changes. So if we got balance changes guaranteed every 2 weeks, would you guys like that or dislike that? Right now, balance changes happen at more irregular cadences and kind of as needed, but I think this is teasing the idea that they could have kind of consistent shakeups of the meta so that you always had something a little bit different going on. Does bi-weekly mean twice a week or every 2 weeks? I'm almost certain it would mean every 2 weeks in this case. I think that's hotly debated, but I don't think they'd ever do twice a week. That would be too quick for people to even have time to process it and keep up with it. So I think every 2 weeks. I would bet 99% that means every 2 weeks. They should have specified that, by the way. From a survey design standpoint, you want to be as clear as you can in language like that, but they didn't. I kind of like that, of course. Again, as a content creator, my desires and needs are a little bit different than other people's because stuff to talk about, new things to do is really beneficial for me personally, but I do recognize that too many changes too often can be really overwhelming for people to keep track of, and they can have like decks or cards they love, and if they get changed, it can be frustrating. It can feel a little bit overwhelming to have too much happening in a game. Some people need a more consistent foundation and throughput to connect to the game. I see this all the time when I post like Nerf videos and stuff. They keep changing everything. I can't keep track of the game. You know, I say that with a whiny voice, but it's a reasonable complaint. I don't mean to suggest it's not reasonable. That's a reasonable thing to say. Because some people interact with the game at a more casual level and at a different pace. If you're plugged in every day and you're really paying attention and you're on YouTube, you're on Reddit, this is not a big deal to you to keep up. But for other people who just pop in a couple times a week, aren't really plugged in, it can be overwhelming to see changes every 2 weeks. I'm torn. I in some ways think it would be better for the game, but I do know that some players would feel a little overwhelmed by that. Okay, so the next thing is new mechanics. This is basically just saying we already do this, but do you like us doing this? And is this important to you? Is this a reason you're playing the game? So new mechanics, card types, rules that add depth and dimension. That's nothing new, but yes, people are going to want that, of course. That's what we like in Hearthstone. New stuff. This is more frequent major refreshes. Enjoy even more frequent major content updates, i.e. more than the 6 major updates ranked mode currently receives per year. So they're talking about 3 expansions and 3 mini sets for the 6 we currently have. Would you like even more frequent major content updates? The problem with that is it gets more expensive every time there are more updates, right? If they add more new card releases, that's more money to spend, which is really a high pressure situation for a lot of people. So again, as a creator, of course, I would take a new card every day, right? I'd have endless videos. But I realize that can really alienate people who can't quite keep up already. Now, if you did have a subscription model, that would stay fixed as much new content as there was. So that could be a good way to mitigate some of that cost concern if you had subscribers. But not everybody would want to subscribe, right? So the pack people would be really sad. Are these points you're making for new players to get in the game or suggestions for what you want to see happen? Only one of these screenshots that was on Reddit of this survey included any sort of prompt. The other one didn't have a prompt, and they don't go together, I don't think. So it says, below is a list of features content that could potentially be included as a part of a major Hearthstone update, which, if any, would motivate you to play Hearthstone if added/available in the game. So motivate you to play Hearthstone does not indicate new or returning or even active players. That could obviously be, of course, all of those groups. So they may have had some sort of selection process in the sampling if they only sampled people who haven't played the game recently, or people who are like not Hearthstone players but play other Blizzard games, because they have access to all those groups, of course, or current Hearthstone players, and maybe all three. But the wording is generic there enough that it's really just about would these things make you want to play Hearthstone? Could really be any of the three audiences. So anyway, next up is Blizzard games crossover with Hearthstone. Play the same great game but with entirely refreshed cards drawn from Diablo, Overwatch, or StarCraft universes. I'm not into this. I thought Diablo was cool, whatever, that's fine, but I'm not really into this. I like Hearthstone being Warcraft IP primarily. You know, I don't mind if characters in the other universes get reimagined in a fantasy medieval setting. Like, yeah, if they're re-envisioned in the Hearthstone world, that'd be fine. That'd be cool. Whatever. Okay, Genji's a ninja in Hearthstone. Cool. Whatever. You know, Tracer's got some cool old timey flintlock pistols. That's cool. She's got like a portal on her chest. You know, that's like a magical portal instead of like a teleporter tech. That'd be cool. Whatever. That's fine. You know, I'd like that. But I don't want like Raynor popping down in his actual spacesuit, you know, make it look like a knight's set of armor. That's fine. So new classes, play a new hero class. Example given: Shaman, Demon Hunter, or Warrior. Indeed, we could use Warrior in Hearthstone. it's not in the game currently, so that would be very welcome. So that's just new classes. We've already got Death Knight and Demon Hunter. So yeah, I mean, of course, I think people are going to want new classes. I will say, I don't think Death Knight was quite the motivator that Demon Hunter was to get people into the game. Yeah, I think they went to the new class well, and the first time I think it worked out great, and it was amazing, and it had some awesome results, particularly because it coincided with the pandemic lockdown phase. People were just at home playing games, watching videos, really engaged in Hearthstone. And then they went back to the well with Death Knight, and, you know, it was a little drier. I'm not going to say Death Knight was underperforming or a failure or anything. Obviously, we don't know, but I don't feel like Death Knight was as hyped as Demon Hunter, because the first time you get a new class, right, that's a huge moment. The second time you get a new class, probably not as significant as a moment. So, but I think we still want new classes eventually. It's just, I don't know if that's something that's going to drive a ton of new exciting engagement like it did before. All right, so next up, the next bracket of the survey, as I designated it here, was kind of technology stuff. So things that are like about the client or changing the technology of Hearthstone in some significant way. So first up, they said smart success metrics. So improve your decks, play, and strategies of the real-time card, win rate, and stats, deck tracking, real-time opponent intelligence, etc. So basically like HS replay type stuff, but built into the client. I'm not that intrigued by that. I honestly, in some ways, I hate that the player base is so well equipped with tons of data. It's a necessary thing. It's obviously always going to happen. There's no way to avoid that. People are going to seek win rate data, of course, but I don't know that it makes the game better. It's like it solves metas, makes people play the same lists. Adding it to the client probably just doubles down on that problem, and I don't think it makes life much easier. It's not too hard to just get a deck tracker and go to HS replay or whatever. So I'm fine with that being served in a third party setting. I'd almost hate for Blizzard to spend development hours on something that's already being served pretty well, when they could be spending that time and energy perhaps and resources on something new and different that's not currently being served very well. So next up is an independent app for Battlegrounds, having a separate app game for Battlegrounds game mode, Hearthstone's Auto Battler. This has never been an issue for me. There's a lot of people out there who've always been really, really hard on Battlegrounds and wanting it to have its own client. It almost feels like it's almost some sort of philosophical stance as opposed to a practical one. There is some practical upside to that because the game client is smaller on mobile, perhaps, if you split out some of that like Mercenaries and Battlegrounds stuff. Like the actual mobile download might be faster and require less data, and maybe that's good. To me, that's a fairly minor upside. That's not a problem I've encountered personally. I don't care that Battlegrounds lives in the client. I don't care that Mercenaries lives in the client. It's not taking anything away from me. But I do know a lot of people really want this. I actually, yeah, Grumpier, I'm with you. I think having it in the client is helpful. I think there's natural crossover and bleed over between the two. I think, for instance, a lot of people who had resigned themselves to only playing Battlegrounds probably were intrigued by Death Knight and checked out some Death Knight action, maybe bought some packs. Probably good for standard in some ways, and vice versa. New Battleground stuff comes out. I'm curious about it. I go play some Battlegrounds. So I think having them live together has some benefits. I don't really see the benefits as much of separating them. If it is, it's more of a technology benefit than a kind of player experience benefit, I would argue. So next up is available on console. Yeah, that sounds like a fine bonus to me. I would not play it on any of those places. I actually don't think very many people would play it on most of those places. I feel like people are going to play on their phone or PC primarily, but it doesn't hurt anything. Switch, I've heard a lot of people want to play it on Switch, so. But PlayStation, Xbox, is that really going to get played much? I don't know. There might be some audiences served there, but I bet they're pretty small. This last one's pretty crazy. Hearthstone 3D gameplay. See your heroes and minions come to life on your screen as fully realized 3D characters. I mean, yeah, that sounds cool, I guess, right? We do have some three-dimensional elements in Hearthstone right now with certain card animations and stuff. They have like little models popping out of the card. I think the Loas were the first ones to really do that, maybe. So we kind of approximate that right now in Hearthstone, but I mean, that's cool. Honestly, I do think that would steal away the feel of a card game a little bit. I think Hearthstone does such a good job of feeling like a physical card game. So to me, that it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like Yu-Gi-Oh or something, right? Like I don't know that I would love it as much. I don't think I'd hate it. It could obviously be explained away. Like even if they're playing a physical card game in the Warcraft universe, magic is being used to visually represent the characters on the cards, sort of thing. It's fine. I don't think I need this though, you know? It just feels like, how would they ever keep up with that? You know, 135 cards, they're not making 3D models for 135 characters. So it would probably be like a select set of legendaries, or then it would just be kind of out of place. I just don't think I need this. I think it would have actually been cool if Battlegrounds did that. Battlegrounds would be fun like that. We kind of, you know, it's more like TFT or auto chess type vibe, but I'd love to see Warcraft characters like that. So next up was social features. They talked about some social features, social group play, create, join guilds, and connect and play with them via special events, group quests, compete with other guilds, etc. Yeah, a lot of mobile games do that. I've done that stuff in mobile games. There's fun little group events and stuff. You try to take down the boss over time. You have little ranks and stuff. I think that'd be cool. It'd be fun to run a Regis guild with you guys and have some fun little stuff to do. I don't think that's a huge undertaking. It's a lot. Everything's hard, I know, but compared to some of these other ones, that seems a little more achievable and a nice little way to keep people engaged, get some extra rewards and stuff. Yes, Xenon, you're right about that. This is all a little late. A lot of these things are in mobile games for the last like 5 or 10 years, and yeah, they all feel a little late. That doesn't mean they're bad to add. It's just, is it going to be motivating for people? Probably not. It's nice to haves for the current player base. It will improve the experience for those people playing the game. Is it going to make people play the game? Are people going to come back to Hearthstone because there is a guild now? I don't really think that's going to happen. Next up is a player-to-player card marketplace. Buy, sell, trade, or gift cards to others in a safe online platform. I don't know that we really need this. Cards individually in Hearthstone don't have particularly big values. I mean, if you get an extra legendary, particularly with no duplicates now, what are you even trading? It's like I got a Death Knight legendary and you got a Demon Hunter and I want Demon Hunter and you want Death Knight and we trade? I guess. Somebody feel free to explain that, why you think that's awesome. In-game live events. Join other players and friends for live mass in-game events that connect the global Hearthstone player base. These are always worded like so public relations-y. Some marketing guy got really excited writing this. I don't mean to make fun of it. It's just, what does that actually mean? I don't know. You know, I think in MMOs and stuff, it's really cool to have big events where people get together because you have a physical representation of yourself and you're literally standing next to somebody else and it feels like you're in this big, awesome group environment. And it does feel significant. It feels really cool to be there and everybody's chatting and you're all jumping around and it feels like you're a part of something. How do you recreate that in Hearthstone? You don't feel like you're a part of anything in Hearthstone. There's nobody standing next to you. There's nobody talk. I mean, it could be chat, I guess, but I don't know what that means. Will it actually feel connected, I guess, is the thing. Like, okay, there's a big event. We're all going to fight the Lich King. We all got to kill the Lich King. And we're all doing it together at the same time. But as far as I'm aware, I'm completely alone in this. You could all be robots. You all don't exist. I don't know how you capture that in Hearthstone. Public profiles show other players your progress, achievements, rank, collection stats, and more. Yeah, that seems like a great thing to have, particularly with achievements. You know, right now you have no way to show off your achievements. It's kind of sad. People always post on Reddit, hey, I did this thing. I got the thing. Yay, look at me. Having a profile for that would be cool. Again, I think there's a discoverability question here. Like, how are people finding these? How are they interacting with these? But if you had things like guilds, if you had recently played players, perhaps it'd be a good place to like, oh man, that guy trounced me with that deck. Let's take a look at his profile or whatever. That could be cool. Like, oh, I owned that guy. Let's check out his profile. He only has 1,000 achievement points. What an idiot. You know, that sort of thing. As long as these had some visibility, right, and some discoverability, I think that would be cool for people. Or even if it was like, imagine if you had like badges based on some of this stuff. And when you queued up against somebody, they had like badges under their name. So it's like, oh man, 30K achievement point badge. Whoa. Or like legend in every mode badge, you know, that sort of thing. So to make you curious about their profile, something that increased that visibility or interactivity a little. That'd be pretty fun. People like showing off. They like, you know, oh, complete collection badge. Dude, he's OP. He's pay to win. You know, I actually think that'd be pretty sick, but I think there needs to be a way to sort of break that barrier to make sure people are engaging with it, because without that default visibility, I don't think most people are going to bother to like click into anybody's profiles, because why do you care about random dudes' profiles? Okay, so final category here I broke out is cosmetics. So unique cosmetics that aren't part of the traditional Warcraft universe, e.g. K-pop, anime, etc. Love that K-pop and anime are the two defaults there. While keeping the current Hearthstone art style. Yeah, they do that already a little bit, right? We've had some like mecha stuff and some anime stuff. I'm not into these personally, but it's a bonus for people who like them, whatever. If that sells some stuff, keeps the game in business, it's fine by me, whatever. Yeah, Magic players will love that stuff, yeah. As long as it says here, while keeping the current Hearthstone art style, that's probably what I care about. I don't want things looking too out of place or too garish or feeling like they break the kind of immersion or fantasy of Hearthstone too much. Even that is who really cares at the end of the day, but that's my personal preference. So next up is alternate art style cosmetics. Cosmetics that break the traditional Hearthstone art style, e.g. anime, comic book, realism. So again, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me or anything. I just would prefer to keep it looking like Hearthstone. Marvel Snap does have it big time, but it's like built into the game, and it's actually explained in universe in Marvel because they have variants. They have you know, multiple universes, the kind of multiversal explanation. kind of captures it. And but that said, if you notice in Marvel Snap, I don't really use that many variants. I like the superhero, the base art. I actually am the same way, despite the explanation, despite it being more built into the game. So progressive customization, permanently evolve card art, animations, card frames, board skins, and other visual elements as you play. That is literally Marvel Snap. They're like, hey, wait a minute. People seem to like evolving their card frames and animations in Marvel Snap. Maybe we could do that in Hearthstone. Frame break. Yeah, exactly. And I'm cool with that. Yeah, as long as it's not tied to power level, ways to make your cards get cooler over time, I'm fine as long as it's not poorly executed, right? As long as it looks good. Hero customization. Choose your own hero power design from a set list and customize your hero's visual aesthetic. That's actually pretty cool. If I'm reading this the way I want, this actually might be less a cosmetic thing and more of a content thing, because this almost sounds like you get to pick a custom hero power. Design, does design mean mechanic, or does design mean, well, no, you can't really do that because you still have to be associated to a class. No, it must mean aesthetic. But anyway, I teased an idea like this. I talked about this a long time ago for the guy who made Matt London, the guy who makes the Book of Mercenaries, Book of Heroes and stuff, was asking like, what would you like next for single player stuff? And I said, I'd love to be able to make my own hero on a Twitter thread. And he responded with positive, like, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. Like being able to pick a hero portrait and a hero power and a kind of a play your own hero, as opposed to always having a pre-designated character. I could play as Regis and like make a Regis somehow. So like, you know, some artwork that lets you like add a beard and change the hair color and stuff. So two-dimensional sort of thing like we see in 3D build the characters, but build a Regis and have my own hero power and play the game through that mechanism. I think that would be pretty cool if that is indeed what this means. We'd all be Regis, yeah. So if that's what that's getting at, I would love that. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, basically a champion of Azeroth, kind of like Warcraft. You're making your own character in World of Warcraft, right? The champion of Azeroth. So finally, the very last thing on this list is alternate card designs. Collect rare, visually enhanced versions of your cards to bring even more value to your collection. So I think that's kind of signature cards and diamond cards, which I don't know, whatever. I'm not into those much. I don't want to pay for those personally, but some people like it. That's fine. Monetizing cosmetically is cool with me. There you go, guys. Those were the different topics covered in the Blizzard survey they sent out. So we'll see. We're not going to know what people rank as number one, obviously, but curious. Any of these things, well, not any, a lot of these things would be a welcome addition. I just want new stuff in Hearthstone all the time. Anyway, that's it. That's the topic. Great video, chat. Thank you for chiming in, everybody, with your awesome words and thoughts and advice. So if you're watching on YouTube, drop some comments with your thoughts as well.